everyone. This is Crystal Swearingen, your host of Crystal Spot Podcast. Today we have our wonderful guest, Deanna, and I told her I'm going to mess it up, but I'm going to try my best. Radaluscu?
Close,
Similar?
right on this too.
Radaluscu,
You're
who is
close.
going to be speaking with us today from Chicago. We were just kind of talking about just the differences in being from Chicago and Kansas City and, our lives a little bit before we got on here. So I wanted to kind of get started, tell everyone a little bit about you, and then start the conversation. So Deanna has worked in multiple things as a hardcore entrepreneur and hustler. She worked in 5 businesses at one time, and she is a serial entrepreneur. She navigated and settled 9 different lawsuits in 1 year for different business-related issues, which I will tell you, for those who pay attention, I've had a partnership thing that's gone bad, and I can tell you the stress and anxiety going on 1, I cannot imagine 9.
Yeah, it's
She
a lot.
also has a very interesting and very inspiring story about kind of where she started at. And she also is a host of her own podcast called the Label Free Podcast. I'm super excited to have you on here. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me, Crystal. I love your show. I was listening to it. I was like, oh yeah, I can't wait to have this conversation with her.
I love that. Well, and you do so many things. You're kind of like me. Like I like to do whatever passion or whatever goes in my way. And it's like, okay, that's my purpose for right now.
Yeah.
And I absolutely adore that. So you're like the Chicago American Nation. You're a podcast host. You've had a fashion line.
Yeah.
Tell us about Deanna.
Well,
Start.
I think my entrepreneurial spirit started when I was much younger, right? When like a little girl, my grandparents had a printing business. My father had a roofing business. He was in construction. So like I was around entrepreneurs growing up. And so then, I did the paper route thing. I did the babysitting thing. And cutting grass. Like I would cut grass, babysit, and clean houses when I was 13.
Okay.
And so from that point on, I was always working and, saving, working, and I just loved having that financial independence. And when I got out of, and I grew up in a pretty abusive home. So I weathered that storm as well, but I repeated the pattern after I graduated high school, got involved with a really abusive boyfriend and was a victim of human trafficking for a while, which is sex work. I think it's a nicer way to say it than is human trafficking, but I got me on a lot of drugs, and it was a rough time in my life. And luckily I made a decision to just pull away, and I went to counseling. I had started therapy, and I just went to therapy for a very long time because I just told myself I didn't want to repeat the pattern, and I wanted to fix what was broken on the inside. And I think healing and growing is a lifelong journey, right? I think some of those wounds that happen to us at a very young age are never really truly healed, because like PTSD, something can trigger that wound to open up again. So fast forward, I met my late husband in my early 20s, and he like kind of pursued me for a long time, like 6 months he pursued me, and I was just like not interested because I just got out of that abusive relationship, and I'm like, I've got to be alone for a while because I don't want to repeat patterns. And so after 6 months, I finally met him for lunch, and we dated for quite a while. It was like a back and forth. He was a big steroid head, but very successful, multimillionaire. I remember when we sat down for lunch, all he kept showing me was the pictures of all these things he had, and I just looked at him like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like that stuff doesn't impress me. Like I am fully capable of making my own money. Like I'm on the verge of buying my own place. It's just like, I was not impressed by that. And I think that probably really intrigued him because he was so used to women that were like all about his money and his status, and I just didn't care.
And you're this beautiful, independent woman who had done the work to make
Yeah.
yourself better. You didn't need that. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And so yeah, we embarked on a journey together, and I helped him. He ended up going to rehab for love and sex addiction, which is very difficult. If there's anyone that's listening that knows someone going through it, it's a very hard thing to deal with someone. I probably would prefer him being addicted to drugs than love and sex addiction, because then you're confused on, does he really love you, and is he just saying he loves you because that's what he's addicted to saying, and it makes him feel good, like he gets that adrenaline rush or the endorphins from that. So we ended up getting married. I was with him for 17 years of my life, and during that period we had 5 businesses together. 3 of them were real estate holding companies that I managed and I was the landlord of, and I negotiated the leases and all that stuff. And then we had our main business, which was remanufacturing or manufacturing of like transmissions. So automotive, we were in automotive, which I do not care for. Not my thing. Don't like it. I'm a total like girly girl, but
Yeah.
I was the vice president of key accounts and business operations. I closed a lot of really big contracts. The last contract I closed before he passed away in 2015 was for $20 million for 4 years.
Wow.
And it was 5 million a year, which he had wanted to double the size of the company, which we were at
Mhm.
20 million at that time. So I did that for us with one contract. And so
Mhm.
I mean, I did a lot of, I ran, he was grooming me to run the business. And because he
Yes.
was the last 2.5 years of his life, he was sick. He needed his third kidney transplant.
Oh.
And, he was on dialysis I was administering dialysis. I was running the business, administering dialysis, taking care of him. I look back and I was just like a shell of a person, you know, and
Mhm.
it was amazing all the things that I was able to do in the life we lived. It was a very big life, but I would never, if I had to do it again, I don't know if I would. I really don't. I don't
Yeah.
know if I would.
After you've gone through this, is it, you've had some trauma from your early, you talk about your childhood and then becoming from a relationship as a human trafficking victim and survivor, and now a widow. How are you taking care of yourself? What are the things that you're pouring into you so that you can deal with what's coming next in your life, the next phase?
Well, luckily after that happened, I really there were some up and downs. Like I had to really
Mhm.
fight for anything. So I had some ownership in the businesses, but he had specifically disinherited me in the will, which I found out after he passed away. And he had told me I was going to get everything. And so I had to really fight hard in court for
Yeah.
3 attorneys fighting the family. And he was married before. He was a little bit older than me.
Okay.
So I had 4 stepdaughters. And it was ugly for a year afterwards. And I finally got a small settlement, and I had always wanted to get into fashion. And so during that time, I just was trying to like start my life over.
Yeah.
I was determined to just be I'm like I had a second chance at my life, right?
Mhm.
Because I was watching this man, this larger in life man, lose his battle, and it was all about him. It was all like, I had just dedicated so much of my life, and then just to lose all that was
Yeah.
devastating. Devastating. So I mean, I went back to counseling, got back into therapy, and I just started taking really good care of myself, realizing that, we all have a reservation we can't cancel, as my best friend would say, and I have an opportunity to live a better and more vibrant, at a higher elevated life. And
Yeah.
so that's what I've decided to do. And during the last 7 years after he passed, I started the podcast. I tried to become a fashion designer, and
Oh,
you
I want to
know,
hear about that. We'll go back to
yeah,
that.
okay. And so now I'm here. I'm remarried. I'm
Congratulations.
I'm in a great place, and I think that our stories only don't define us. They are just part pieces of our past that we can, hopefully gain some wisdom from.
Yeah, definitely. Failure is not a period at the end of the sentence. It's just a
Yeah.
comma. You failed and then.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, you have gone through so many things as, a young woman, and you had some successes. And it sounds like you were saying that he was grooming you to run the businesses.
Yeah.
So you learned quite a bit. What are some business things that you learned in running these 5 companies and masterminding a $20 million contract that you can use now in what you're doing?
You know what? Communication is big, no matter what you're doing in life. And so when you are at that level, and to always be communicating with your vendors, and at that point, the procurement manager,
Mhm.
communicating with the procurement person for that contract or any contract in general, I always talk to them to find out, okay, what are you wanting to see when we submit our proposal? And so
Mhm.
that I would able to dial down, and making sure that you're pouring into the people that are supporting you in your role and empowering them to become leaders as well. I mean, I've made
Yeah.
some incredible female leaders that work for me in that position, and they're thriving today. And I know, and they've said that because of me, I was a great example to them, and it's just so great to see. And
Yeah.
I could have, I think I could have been better but looking back, if I was ever in that leadership position again, I would probably do some things a little bit differently, but some things still the same.
I always say we evolve as a human being, and we're
Oh yeah.
not the same person. You're not the same person you were then, because you
No.
got the lessons that you needed to learn. And so moving forward, it sounds like your biggest tip is communication and
Oh yeah.
really pouring into those around you, whether it be support or partners in the business or outside of the business, peripheral businesses.
Oh
I
yeah.
think in this day and age when we have so much on social media and we're like so used to a text mentality, you're like, you really have to. I always tell I own a real estate brokerage, and I always tell my realtors that if the game is on the line, you pick up the phone. You
Yes.
don't text. You're not
Yes.
calling plays from text. You call the person. You have a human interaction. You try to get in front of them. And I think that's what really helps people trust you and build those relationships.
Yeah, I would
So
agree.
you mentioned health. You said after your husband had passed, you really decided to focus on your health. Is that part of so did you start getting into fitness? Was he a bodybuilder
He
or
was
was
a
he
bodybuilder. I was
okay?
I was always into health and fitness. I competed in
Mhm.
bodybuilding myself. I was a
Oh,
figure
wow.
for like 20
Well,
years. But like when he started declining, I just really started focusing, like getting real, like tighter on my diet and just
mhm,
taking more vitamins and just being very cognizant of my health because I had to be strong
mhm.
for him. And I'm a certified personal trainer, dietitian, life coach. I'm all those things. I just don't
Yeah.
I don't practice those.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say to be able to balance that, a lot of times women, especially when you become a caregiver, whether to children or to a spouse, especially as they're ailing, we put ourselves on the back burner. And it sounds like having that knowledge and that expertise from your background really helped you be able to tend to those things without breaking yourself down.
Oh, well, I had been breaking down. I was probably 20 pounds overweight. I had been drinking probably a bottle of wine a night. And
Mm,
as his health started declining and I realized that, oh shit, like I've got to take care of him.
yeah.
I like, completely flipped and I was like, okay, I got to really take care of myself or else we're both going to be in
Yes.
because the stress of him getting sick, the stress of the business, and we lived a very, get a charmed life. We would eat out all the time. I mean, we're flying private. We've got the Ferrari, we've got the mansion, we've got all these things, but you really have nothing if you don't have your health. And so I like, as he started declining, I saw the seriousness of it. And I mean, I mourned him. I knew he wasn't going to make it. I knew he wasn't going to make it because he was
Yeah.
still injecting while he was on dialysis. And a
He
lot
was
of
still
people
what? I'm sorry.
injecting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we would fight about that. And so, that was like, turning point for me where I was like, okay, I got to get back on my A game and really just be able to take care of this man. So,
And you can love people from afar.
yeah.
Sometimes that's healthy. You can
Yeah.
be close to them and love them, but be preparing for for the
Yeah.
future.
Oh
So
yeah.
you mentioned you started a fashion company. What was that? What was that like?
Uh, that was a learning lesson for sure. Okay. I love fashion. Still love fashion till today. I love my clothes, my shoes, my purses. Like I said, I'm a total girly girl.
I
So when
love
I
it.
was younger, I would always sew and really like
Hmm.
adjust different things and make my own clothes. And I always wanted to get into that industry. And so at when he was real sick, I found a like a consultancy company out of Soho, New York,
Hmm.
and I called them for a consultation. And so I talked to them over the phone, and then they wanted me to fly out to New York to meet with them. So I did with my sister when my late husband was still alive. And when I flew back, I gave him a proposal. I'm like, I'd like X amount of dollars to start this because I wanted to start my own thing. And he always told me he would support me no matter what. Well, at that point, things were starting to get like he was just, I mean, a couple months after that, he passed away. And so I had to wait until after everything settled with the family to start my fashion journey, and I learned a lot. It's a very difficult business. My first collection, I did about 30 pieces. I was on the runway in Rhode Island for StyleWeek, and I was on the local news there.
Nice.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a fantastic. I had like a standing ovation with my collection, and it was
Excellent.
just, it was beautiful. Then my next collection, I was a finalist for the Cadillac Design Challenge here in StyleChicago. And then my last collection I did, it was more avant-garde, and it was for a large charity event I did against human trafficking. And I did
Hmm.
it with 6 other designers here in the Chicagoland area. And it was a huge event. We had about 300 people, raised
Wow.
$30,000. And I just told myself I wasn't going to keep throwing good money after bad. And it's a very interesting business. People are weird about their clothes. So
Hmm.
you have to really gain some very a loyal like customer base, and it's going to take you a while. You have to have deep pockets. And I wasn't doing the patterns myself. I wasn't creating the samples myself. I was farming all that stuff out. And so all those different things, there's a cost to it. And so,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it was a great learning lesson. I went after my dream.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't say that they did that. I that was the
Most
first
people
time.
don't. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first time I put myself out there, just myself.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of growth that happened within that. And so I know if I ever wanted to do it again, there are certain things I would do differently. And I would probably do like a couple pieces at a time and not 30 at a time, which
When
is
you
like,
said 30, I was really shocked. I was like, that
yeah,
seems like quite a big for a first collection.
yeah,
Wow. You're
yeah,
very ambitious and sounds like you had a great receiving of that, but it's I won't say it's a crowded inventory. There's some main
yeah,
players. I mean, crowded arena, but kind
yeah.
of is. And to have 30 pieces your first time out is crazy.
Well, that was the advice that they gave me. In hindsight, I probably wouldn't use a consulting company again because they costed a lot of money. And
Hmm.
the prices that they quoted me were not what they actually were. So when I placed my order, so I did a Kickstarter, right? And the
Mm.
Kickstarter is awesome. It takes a lot of work. And the Kickstarter was to fund the first production, the first collection production. And so people would
Yes.
buy the pieces that I showcased. And I raised over $5,000. And so when I went to go place my order, the prices that they quoted me were way different, much higher.
Oh.
So I had to cancel my order with them. I had to get a refund of my money, and I had to source everything here. So finding
Mm.
the same type of fabrics, find a production house, like it was madness. And
Oh, I'm
so
sure.
I would have, now that I know what I know, I wouldn't have used a consultancy. Probably would have just done things a little bit differently.
Yeah. It seems like you have a variety of diverse skills that you've gained that was loud. From real estate, managing your real estate holdings to having the transmissions you said recalibrated or rebuilding,
Remanufactured, yeah,
remanufacturing those to the fashion line and your background in fitness. It's going to be a kind of a weird question, but what is your favorite thing that you've done in your journeys?
Hmm. I'd probably say my podcast now.
Yeah. Tell us
And
about Label Free.
the
What?
label free started as a passion project. And it was like after the fashion, I was done with that in 2019. I was like, okay, I'm sick and tired I was trying to date. And, I just did that event against human trafficking. So I was trying, I had a lot of labels, right? And so I was
Mm-hmm.
talking to my best friend, and I was just like, I'm so sick and tired of these labels. I want to talk about like how I'm freeing myself from dropping
Mm.
them and just living my life dynamically on my own terms and just unapologetically. And, we came up with label free. To live your best life, live label free. And as I like grew into this role as a podcasting host and starting to share my message, and I'm sure like yourself, like
Mhm.
the message was bigger than myself. And
Yeah.
people really it resonates with people everywhere around the world, and people with so many different backgrounds, because I think that we all have some kind of label that's holding us back from something, whatever that might be. And to give someone the permission to say, hey, you don't need to carry that anymore, is huge, right? If I give them my permission, like, okay, I was a widow, but that is
Mhm.
just something that I went through, not who I am, right?
Yeah,
I'm a human trafficking survivor. That's something I went through. That's not who I am.
exactly.
Like all these different things. I was abused by boyfriends, my father, but I am worthy of love. That's not who I am. And
Mhm.
so all these things, and it's different. Everybody has a different story, but the idea is still the same. Just to, we don't have to carry that baggage. We have a
No.
choice. And so the people that want to, I talk to people that may have gone through something, or, have experienced some kind of enlightening moment, and they are just like, okay, either a corporate refugee, someone who's experienced trauma, and now is a coach helping other people. I mean, people are so incredibly amazing that I just love hearing the stories and sharing them. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. That's the full reason why I started my magazine 6 years ago, was because I'm like, there's so many amazing women, and they may not be the CEO, they may not be the founder, but they're doing amazing things in their community or for their company or for their, whatever their charity. And I was like, I just like to learn from people.
Yeah.
And I think with your vast array of expertise and knowledge that you've acquired over the year, and I love that idea of being label free too, because you have all these titles of accomplishments, but they don't really define you. They're just part of your, what do we say? Part of your masterpiece. It's part of
Yeah.
your artwork, but
Yeah.
it's not
I
the
like
full
that.
picture. So like stand back and look at it, like I'm just putting some pieces here, but it's
Yeah.
not the full picture. I
Yeah.
love that. So where can people find you if they want to find you online? Where do they follow you? Where can they listen to the podcast? Give us all of your details.
I'm on all the things. You can Google search me and I'm going to come up for all over. So Apple, Spotify, my website is labelfreepodcast.com. That is all I do currently. I do offer some coaching for other podcasters, but that is limited too, just because my bandwidth is not all there.
Yeah.
I'm on social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, and that's about it. I can't do anymore.
That seems like a lot.
It is a lot. It's a lot to manage, but I'm on all the things and I'm very responsive. So if anybody sent me an email or whatever, ask a question, I'm always available and I respond.
You
So
guys, and I just pulled up her Instagram right now on Label Free. And if you go to her link tree, you can have all of the things. So you can find out where she's at, what the different venues, and then just all the details in one place. So if you can't spell the last name that I did a really bad job of pronouncing,
you did good.
you
No, you did good.
you can go on Instagram and look up Label Free. What are you looking forward to in 2024? And one of the other questions I have is, what is a word for 2024?
What am I looking forward to in 2024? So even though I'm in this later part of my life, my husband and I were basically the same age. We don't have any kids. We want kids. And so
Okay.
we are going to go the IVF route and to really just kind of invest in making that happen. So I'm looking forward to becoming a mom in 2024
Love
finally.
that.
I've always wanted it. I always wanted a family, and so I'm really hoping that that happens and God is going to grace us. And a word in 2024. Yeah, what is a good word? I don't know. My podcast is all about inclusivity. I feel like in the world there's been so much division that's happened. I mean, media and social media, when they're showing so many negative things. And I think a word I'd want to say is unity.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a good one. When you said what you were saying, that you're intending to have a family in 2024, I thought fruitful.
Oh, that's good too. Okay,
Yeah.
I can fruitful
That's the
then.
word that came to me when I want to speak a positive word on you and keep you in my
Oh,
prayers. And I hope
thank
that you
you.
do get to start that family in 2024,
Thank
because
you
I
so
feel like you're going to be a fierce warrior of a mother.
Oh yeah, I don't feel sorry for my kids, but I will definitely be like that lioness. Like, don't mess with my kids.
Yeah, but it teaches your children to feel secure. And when you grow up in childhood trauma, that's one of the things that you always wish you had, was that security. So
Yes.
I
Amen.
think you'll be a blessing to your
Amen,
your
Crystal.
family.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
well, thank you so much for being on the show, and I really appreciate you. You guys check out all of the things at Label Free on Instagram. Check out the link tree, and I'm super excited to have met you.
Me
Thank you.
too. Thanks.